We're
Oh,
back.
yes.
We're
We are
back.
back.
It's been what, 2 weeks? Last week we had
Yeah,
a
2
week
weeks.
off.
Last week we were off.
Yeah,
Had an
Warner
issue with
wasn't
my
feeling
ear.
very well.
It was in. It wasn't great. But
Yeah.
we're back. And today is going to be a great one. I've spent this afternoon plotting it out. It's exciting.
Yeah.
I mean,
I've seen the
my
notes and I
God.
can say that it's pretty solid and you're in for a
Yeah.
treat, guys. But welcome to the podcast. Every single Sunday we're here, apart from last week, obviously. If you're here for the first time, my name's Eamon, this is Warner, and we just chat
Hi.
about the Bible, certain
Thanks for joining.
topics,
That's
jump
right.
into some scriptures, all that good stuff. So whether you listen to this live right now, whether you listen to this future, whether that's on Facebook, YouTube, Spotify, any other platform, I encourage you to give us a like, give us a share,
Do it.
comment. If you're here, comment. And if you're on Spotify, if you're on Apple, give us a review. Leave us some stars, whatever you think the podcast is worth. Let us know and give us some feedback.
Yeah.
And if there is anything that you disagree with, maybe, or something that you think, oh, that's cool, didn't know that, or whatever, let us know, because we like to hear this stuff. We do like to sort of interact with people and things like that. So just give a shout out in the comments if you're here, because it'd be good to hear from you. But anyway, let's jump in how we always do. Warner, tell the people how your last 2 weeks was.
Last 2 weeks. I'm going to go with like a 6.5.
6.5, okay.
Because obviously 7 is my average. Like I'm good, but I'm not amazing. I'm not terrible.
Yeah.
So overall, it's a 6.5. It would be lower because of my ear. So that has been a massive pain. And been getting treatment for it the last 9 days, something like that. Just about, or roughly over a week. Basically lost 75% of my hearing in there, so that's not great. And there was some earache in there as well. So that's what happened last week. Is I had earache in that ear, 5:30. Do you know what I mean? Or 5 o'clock. So it was I was just like, hey, let's just rest it out. Do you know what I mean? But the top side is that the solicitors of the seller for the house finally sent the contract over, which means that our solicitors can properly get the ball rolling. So that's a very positive thing. And I think in the last 2 weeks, I can't remember if it was before, or I think it was in the last 2 weeks, we got our official mortgage offer. They've accepted and they said, yeah, we're happy to do that. We know how much we're paying. And let me just say, hey, as far as a monthly amount, it's nice. It's you know what I mean? It's the lowest I've ever paid to live in somewhere that's not with my parents or something. So very happy with our purchase. House party incoming.
Yes.
So, who knows? Don't know how much furniture will be in there. There'll be something. Yeah, podcast from the house. Anyway, 6.5. A bit of good, bit of bad. A bit more bad than good. But that's what I'll be. What about you, mate? What's happened to you in the last 2 weeks?
For me, it's got to be a 10. It's got to be.
I thought it might be slightly higher than a 10, to be honest.
Well, 15. Let's go 15 then. Let's push the boat out.
15. I don't think you've ever given a 15.
I've got some things that have been good, I've been getting out recently, which I think is big. I went to the football with the boys. I went to the rugby on Friday with the boys again, just to get out. Do you know what I mean? It was nice, especially because of football, not being able to go for however long. Just getting there, sitting in the match, watching a match. You know what I mean? It was just that's meant for me. That really boosted it. Then, this morning I was preaching. It went all right, decent, solid.
It's very good.
It's very good. And then
stop
the peak.
Worrying. Stop wanting. Start listening. Start learning. That's what it was. In case you missed it, those are the talking points.
Those are the points. Good job, both remembering that. At least somebody was listening. I know. But but the peak, the pinnacle, has got to be that I got a new job.
Hey, guy, tell them about the job, right? Because it's actually pretty sound. Do you know what I mean?
Listen, yeah, right. So let's rewind the clock a little bit, right? I was like, here are the requirements of what I would like in a job. Here's the working hours. Here's some of the benefits. Blah blah blah. Here's how much I want to be earning, etc. etc. And then
also let's just set the scene a bit for people who this literally might be their first time. So Eamon's had a very long journey of getting a job.
Yeah.
There are a few different points where there was one incoming. It looked like there was one, and there wasn't one. So it's been what, I don't know, 18 months, slightly less than that.
No, it's well less than that. It's well less than that.
All right.
It's under a year. It's under a year.
Yeah, a year though. That's a long time.
Yeah.
Actively looking for a job. So go. Just so you guys know, that's where he was. Go on. Mate,
yeah, it's brutal, mate. And honestly, it's like you said, there were so many points where I was so close, but I'd always say the same thing. I'm like, God, if this is the right thing, open the door. If not, just shut it. And sometimes I was like, this is it. Yes. I was like, got the job and all that kind of stuff. And the guy would be like, hey, yeah, just to let you know, you didn't get it. Sorry, mate. And I'd be like, come on. But I applied for this job. I literally, this is the word like, right? I literally applied for this job. I was underqualified for it. I did not meet the requirements for this job. I thought I'll apply anyway. Applied. Lady emailed me to arrange a phone call. I missed the email. So she just calls me. She just goes randomly out of the blue. She goes, hey, I emailed you. You didn't answer me back. Are you free for a call? And I was like, yeah, why not? Do you know what I mean? I'm sound. And then
I'm not doing anything.
I was literally just playing video games. So I was like, yeah, go on, then I can talk. So then she was like, oh, like after chat, she's like, you're really great. Let's arrange another call. A couple of days there, arrange another call. A couple of days there. She's like, oh, you're just the best. I was like, yes, easy days. So we had an interview on a Microsoft Teams. So I literally wore a suit top half and shorts bottom half. No word of a lie. Short slide. It was just, you're
basically a modern day TV personality. Do you know what I mean? That's
exactly. And I ended up getting a job. It's a job that pays more than I even sort of asked for.
Come on.
The requirements. It's got better benefits. It's got better hours.
Come on.
It's got more flexibility. All these sorts of things. So, it's happy days. And it's starting 2 weeks.
Let's get it. Go. Hey, it starts in 2 weeks, guys. And Eamon mentioned this in his preach. But this whole time that he's not been able to get a job, he's literally been praying for people to get a job. Basically, almost every week, someone's been like, "Oh, can you please pray for me to get jobs or something?" And like people have literally gotten, because especially, I don't know how you guys do it, but the way we pray, we always pray for more than what the person's expecting. We always pray that God will give them a better job, better hours, better pay, better whatever.
Yeah.
And literally every person that he prayed for a job got a job. And it was like the testimonies were coming in, and that's great. And we were celebrating. And now this is his time. So let's celebrate with Eamon, especially if you guys have been watching with us, whether live or in the reviews. Do you know what I mean? Celebrate with him. And if you need a job, God can provide and will provide a job for you, or a source of income. Maybe you're trying to push a business or something. As Eamon said this morning, Eamon said a lot of good stuff this morning. Rely on God, focus on God, not on the other stuff. Do you know what I mean? It was great. This morning was really good, by the way. God clearly spoke. God spoke, and it was fab. I'm probably going to rewatch it at least once, and also the preach. So
yeah,
it's very good, really good. So guys, let us know anyway. That's how we're doing. Let us know how you guys are doing if you're with us live, or if you're listening after the fact. Still let us know how you're doing, because we just like to interact with our community, little community. Yeah. So this week's cool cue of the week goes as follows. Would you rather create a new social media platform or a new movie genre?
Easy.
So what are you going for, Eamon?
For me, it's got to be new social media platform. Listen, here's what I'm thinking, right? I know Steve Jobs didn't create a social media platform, but that fashion is unrivaled. I'm telling you, that is top tier stuff. You can't beat it. Same with Mark Zuckerberg. Dresses like, he just wears the same t-shirt and jeans every single day. And I aspire to be that wealthy, that successful, that I don't need to make any effort whatsoever.
You want to look like Homer Simpson, innit? Or I don't know if you guys are any fans of The Simpsons. There's this one episode where it shows Marge like getting ready, and it's literally she just opens the wardrobe, and she literally just has like all of the exact same dress, same color, everything. And that's how a lot of those people live.
Yeah,
they'll literally have like 10 of the same shirt, 10 of the same jeans. Do you know why they do it? That's the real question.
Like, do you know the answer?
Yeah, that's why I'm asking.
Well, I mean, I guess the thing that comes to mind is that they've got nothing to prove, really, do they? That they're wealthy or that they're successful, because everyone can see it. So just,
oh no, mate, it's a lot more Instagram entrepreneurial than that.
Is it?
It's all about minimizing the amount of thought space that you need to give to things that aren't the thing you're trying to do. That's why they do it. So they say, I don't want to waste time. I don't want to waste 10 minutes of my day figuring out what I'm going to wear. Because I've got so much stuff that I'm dealing with that I'm just going to get up. I put my shirt on, put my jeans on, put my shoes on, and like my brain can actually go towards other stuff.
See, that's solid.
So
I respect that. I respect that. You look at people like Mark Zuckerberg, and if you knew nothing about that guy, you put him in a lineup, you wouldn't say he was like one of the richest people on the planet and a billionaire running XYZ companies. You know what I mean? You just wouldn't guess it but when you're that successful, you got nothing to prove. You know what I mean? Everyone knows that you're a baller. Everybody knows you got cash in the pocket. Everyone knows you're successful. You can run a successful business and social media. So I think that's what I want. Just keep it chill. Just really, really keep it chill. Create a new social media platform. Easy days. What about you?
Cool. So before I answer, someone's asking for what's the other option. So for clarification, the second option is create a new movie genre. So for example, the most popular genre at the moment is superhero films. So that would mean you were the person who first did superhero movie that launched all of these, Marvel, DC, etc., all that jazz into the mainstream world. But I'm 100% going to go with social media platform. That is the new like. It's the, do you know what I mean? That's the new vehicle of wealth generation, really, for our generation.
100%.
But also, I think being the creator, you can decide like what you like, how you want to do things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And what kind of like ethos to have on social media and stuff. But also, I just like social media. Like a lot of it is trash. But a lot of it is also good. And yeah, I'd love that. And odds are you'd probably be very successful, monetary wise. And then, it's up to you whether or not you want to continue running it, or you just want to keep your shares and give someone else the CEO position. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that's like Jeff Bezos. It's not a social media platform, but he's eventually trying to not be actually managing Amazon, but he's still going to be getting the dollars from there. Do you know what I mean? So, and then you get to actually decide, hey, what am I going to use my money for? So hopefully it's not like a small thing like, Bebo, which disappeared. Because, stuff like Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, I'd count YouTube as a social media platform, really. Like, I think those are going to last a long time. Just because of the models that, like the actual business models they have. Yeah. And they already have a lot of people built into that. So that's what I'd go for. I don't see anyone picking the movie genre.
No.
Option.
I think social media is too good. I think it's just too good of an option.
I think it's a bit because obviously you could come out with this film, right, which does great. People love it. And I guess you would have, like, it would launch your career, obviously, innit? Because you'd be, like, the mastermind. So you'd kind of be like
Star Wars. Like George Lucas with Star Wars. He sort of pioneered this new genre.
Yeah. But then the thing is, like, I think the return-wise isn't quite the same. Because obviously, people who are inspired by you, they're not like you're not getting the same level of credit as with that. So yeah, but now that you mentioned Star Wars, I am slightly intrigued. Just from like a creative standpoint, you know what I mean? Yeah. But nah, I think I got social media.
Got to stick with it.
I got to. Yeah. All right, so it's about 50 minutes in.
Yeah.
And we've got some work to do, ladies and gentlemen. And it's not going to be work, it's going to be fun. Because we are going to be doing a Bible overview, books of the Bible overview. Now, obviously, there's a lot of books in the Bible, about 66. And being able to do a full overview of all the books is an impossible thing. So I thought, hey, also, it's a bit boring, let's be real, right? Just doing like here's an overview. Like, it can be a bit boring. So I thought, what's the way to spice it up? And so what I'm going to frame it as is the Bible TV show, right?
Nice.
We've got a 7-season TV show. Each season is made up of 12 episodes. Yeah. And so that's the thought. I just thought, hey, number 7's cool. 7 seasons would be cool. End it well. All that. Hey. 12 episodes, relatively standard nowadays. So that's how we're going to break it down. And it'll be a bit more focused on the story than like the actual books. So I might give like brief. There'll be like brief, bookends of the actual book list. Do you know what I mean? But that's what we're going to do. So, season 1, we begin. And obviously, season 1, beginning of everything, quite literally, because God creates everything. And we're also introduced to the 4 main characters of the season. We're introduced to God, introduced to man, introduced to creation, introduced to Satan / the enemy / Lucifer / Morning Star / whatever moniker you want to give it. And so these are kind of the 4 main characters that go throughout the whole Bible story, and also that these are kind of the 4 main things that are being affected or affecting things. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So we start season 1. God creates everything, and man is put in charge of creation and governing creation the way that God governs. God and man living in perfect harmony, working together. Satan, the enemy, arrives, brings manipulation and lies, breaks the relationship between God and man because he's jealous, and that's just what he does. He's a snake, literally a snake. I mean, and then man and God are separated forever. Sin enters the world, which affects creation because man was put in charge of creation, and that brought death into the world and all these different things. So this is like the first major event is the fall of man, sin entering into the world and into creation specifically. And that's important because a lot of things that we see, a lot of things that we go through in life is all a consequence of sin being in creation now, and it wasn't supposed to be. Do you know what I mean? So even the idea of death, there was no idea of death before that happened. It just wasn't a thing in creation. Whereas, the way that we live, death is just the cycle of life, isn't it? Circle of life. Very famous phrase. Anyway, so the next 2 episodes, that happens episode 1, obviously. Episode 2 is an anthology, short little stories of a few different bits and bobs here. You got Cain and Abel, you got Enoch, you got the Tower of Babel, a few different things. You get hints that some people are still trying, like they still know God and they still want to be in a relationship with him. But the vast majority of people just doing what they want. They just got no care. They're not involved. You know what I mean? Don't care about God no more. And then major event happens, the flood and Noah. God says, hey, forget it. I'm scratching it off. I'm gonna start again with one man and his family. Let's go again. Abraham is then introduced. We fast forward a little bit. Abraham introduced, and then God establishes his covenant with Abraham, and God institutes the covenant. God does the sacrifices and all that jazz. And this is before, the covenants later on. And Abraham becomes the father of the faith. This is very important because a lot of the stuff that we're living in and enjoying is stuff that was promised to Abraham, and we are literally part of the promise that was given to Abraham and God's faithfulness to Abraham and his covenant with him. So then we follow him and his family through all their different trials and through all their ups and downs. We get to Isaac, we get to Jacob, whose name then becomes Israel. Then we come to Joseph. And we end season 1 with Joseph being reconciled with his family and all of Israel's household moving over to Egypt, getting the pick of the land. And season 1 ends quite well. Starts off, ends quite well. Quite a happy note.
Happy days.
Season 1, I think. Yeah, thought so. And I wonder if I'm going fast on this now. I'm trying to gauge how much time I have.
Yeah, you did all right. You're doing good. I think,
right.
You'll be fine. You're on track.
Anyway, I'll just do it as is. Do you know what I mean? And we get to where we get to. Season 2 begins.
Nice.
Complete tonal shift. Episodes 1 to 3 is all about the people of Israel are now enslaved by a new pharaoh because don't know what happened in the communication of the family, but this new pharaoh has no idea about what Joseph did for literally the entire world and specifically the nation of Egypt. And basically Israel's family, Jacob's family, because they were just so many and God was blessing them, they began to multiply in Egypt really quickly. And they were also doing really well financially, like wealth-wise. They were really wealthy. They were like just growing. God was blessing them.
Yeah.
And Pharaoh was like, hang on, this at first these people were just here. Now, like if this keeps going, they're gonna end up taking over and we're gonna end up serving them probably. So he decides to enslave them all. And they spend about 400 years in slavery. That's a long time to be in slavery. And major event happens. God speaks to Moses, and God uses Moses and Aaron as his mouthpiece to deliver his people from slavery. Because all this time, the Israelites, which they become known as because of Israel, the guy, they are crying out to God, that God, please save us from this slavery, 400 years. God sends Moses to deliver them, and that's where you get the stories of the plagues and all those different signs. And then, that's where we get the blood on the sides of the doors, top of the doors, all that jazz. You get them escorted out of Egypt and guided by pillar of cloud by day, pillar of fire by night. And then we have the crossing of the Red Sea as well, where if you don't know, they get to a sea. They don't know what they're going to do because how are you going to cross the sea if you've got like millions of people with you and goats and wagons and all this stuff? And the Egyptians are chasing after them. And then God tells Moses, hey, look at what's in your hand. Moses puts his staff down, sea parts, they walk through. The Egyptians are chasing them, and then the Egyptians are killed because the sea closes over them. And this is super important to remember, especially further down we go. I think Emma's frozen. Don't know if he's going to pop back in. He's gone. Hello, it's me. I'll keep going. Hopefully, he'll pop back in. This is important because this whole event of the slavery of the Israelites going into their release or their rescue from slavery, and then this whole process of them escaping the Egyptians and the Red Sea opening and the Egyptians being killed by the Red Sea is important because it's a picture of what baptism in water does. So if you ever think, what on earth, like, what does baptism in water do? What's the point of it? This is a very major key and is used often. Hey, he's back. This is used often in a lot of epistles and in the New Testament as an example of why baptism in water is powerful, because it separates you from the enemy's influence over your life, and a lot of the things of your old life that had a hold over you. So that's the importance of baptism and how that relates to that. So Moses now is trying to lead the people through the desert to the promised land. And in between, the Israelites are grumbling, complaining a lot, and it takes very long. I think it was supposed to take, I can't remember if it was meant to be 4 years or I think it was 4
it's way less.
But anyway,
it's way less than
it was supposed to take a really short amount of time. Maybe it was 40 days.
I think it's
a really short amount of time.
Yeah.
Someone in the comments, let me know if you know the exact amount of time the journey, like, it was actually supposed to take, ended up taking 40 years, an excessively long amount of time. So, you might think that you've had a bad reroute with your GPS, but I don't think you've had a 40-year delay.
Yeah.
Anyway, major event in the middle of season 2, we get the 10 Commandments are given the second time, because first time, obviously, Moses destroyed it because he went up and the people of Israel were like, Moses has been gone for a really long time. How about we just create our own God? And Aaron was like, yeah, cool, I'll help you out. So Moses destroyed the first 10, and then he had to go back up so God could write on it again. And then he came down, gave the 10 Commandments, and then this is when the law gets introduced. So before this point, there has been no law, as in, all the different stuff that they have to do.
Yeah.
So the law is introduced, and they are wandering the desert for 40 years because they had a whole generation of complainers, basically. And this is probably the most potent place in the Bible. 11 days. We've had it in the chat. So it was meant to take 11 days. Took 40 years. I don't know what that multiplication is, whatever, but that's a long time.
Reroute.
Yeah, and it was basically because an entire generation of people complained the entire time. Even though they experienced a lot of miracles, manna from heaven, their shoes never wore out, their clothes never wore out, but they complained the whole time in their situation. And so God said, hey, none of you are going to see the promised land because you're all whining all the time. No gratitude for the fact that you literally used to be slaves like 10 days ago, and now you're free. And the fact that you don't have to hunt for food. You're getting, bread and quail delivered to you in the morning, every morning. You don't have to shop for new shoes, all this stuff. Anyway, so we start the end of, we get to the end of season 2, and, Moses has been leading these people best he can, but they've been getting on his nerves a lot, and Moses does have some anger issues, so Moses hits a rock instead of speaking to a rock, and he can no longer go into the promised land. His protege, Joshua, takes over, and they begin to take the land in the promised land. So now that Joshua is taking over, this is a whole complete generation. So that whole generation of complainers are dead now. So, that's a word of warning for us that we should not be the people in the group that are always complaining about stuff. Because a lot of times complainers don't end up seeing the promises fulfilled that they want to see. Anyway, Joshua is now leading the newer generation of the Israelites into the promised land. They begin taking some battles, doing some stuff, and he leads them for a very long time. Eventually dies in his old age, and the Israelites then begin a cycle of rejecting and forgetting God, just basically on like a 30 to 60 year cycle. And so this is where we hit a bit of Judges.
Yeah.
Judges starts happening, and we just get loads of little bits of this person here, this person here. The Israelites forget God. They begin chasing idols. God sends a judge, rescues them. They have peace. The judge dies, forget God. Continuous cycle. And that cycle is a theme of just life, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
People rejecting God, forgetting God, idols, God saving, restoring, and then continues. Anyway, the last episode of season 2 ends with Ruth, which is an amazing story of God's mercy and faithfulness, because Ruth came from a people who were God's enemies.
Yeah.
And so she had no business basically being anywhere near the Israelites. She should have been killed by them. But the fact that she then became part of the lineage of Jesus is just a great story about faithfulness, God's mercy, etc.
Yeah.
Season 3, we begin with 1 Samuel and that type of vibe. So we begin with, this is really like the beginning of prophets as we come to know of them. So, there's not really been anyone who's been seriously going after God. And this little boy, Samuel, God begins to speak with him.
Yeah.
And he becomes God's main prophet at that time. And a major event happens now. The people, of course, part of their cycle is rejecting God. So again, they reject God. Classic Israel. They reject God and they say, God, we're tired of you now, right? We want a king like everyone else, because everyone else has got a king. We really want a king. Again, got to say, Eamon did a really good job today. Part of what he was talking about is the danger of comparison and looking at what other people have got and wanting that instead of looking to God and that type of thing. So this is what happened to them. They were looking around saying, everyone else has got a king. We don't really have a king. Like, we've got this thing, this like structure with the Levites, and obviously we've got God, but we don't have a king. We want a king. And so God says, hey, you want a king? I'll give you a king. So the first king they get, God gives them the exact type of king that they want.
Yeah. And
that was Saul. And this is a good lesson as well, that sometimes God will give you what you want.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? If what you want isn't great and you're just saying, God, I know that this is what you want me to do. I know that this is what you're saying. I know this isn't what you want me to do, but I really want this. I really want this. Sometimes God will say, hey, you can have what you want. So the Israelites have what they want with Saul, who he was never really great, but he did okay in the beginning.
Yeah, he did try.
And then quite quickly, just, it started going downhill, basically. And then eventually, David is anointed, and David is a king as God wants. God describes him as a man after his own heart. And, David has a lot of ups and downs, but overall, he is someone who is passionate about God and doing and fulfilling God's purpose. And I thought of this as a nice microcosm of humanity's relationship with God. It's like rejecting God, because you want your own thing. That was the thing with Eve, is that the fruit looked nice to eat, but she also wanted to know good and evil for herself. And that's the common theme generally. People reject God because they want what they want. And so, they get what they want. The Israelites got Saul. Sometimes, God will say, hey, you want to chase that thing? Go chase that thing. And it doesn't go great. You know what I mean? There are a lot of issues. Even sometimes you get the thing you want, and then you don't realize that there's so many other bad consequences that come along with that. And then, a time of restoration comes, and God provides for you what was right for you, which he wanted you to have. So King David unites the people of Israel, leads them through more victories to take all the land that God had promised them, defeat all their enemies, and ushers in an unprecedented time of peace for the Israelites. And God promises that his throne will continue forever, and the Messiah will be a king like David.
Yeah.
And major event happens here. We have the beginnings of the plans for the temple.
Ooh.
David is told that he can't build the temple himself because he has a bit too much blood on his ledger. And so he decides that he's just going to prepare everything. He gets the plans ready. He gets all the resources he needs. And then his son Solomon, who becomes king after, basically all he has to do is put it together. And the temple is created. And it's important because it is done by the design in heaven.
Yeah.
David is given the design. But the temple is a very significant thing and a significant like physical thing at the time, but also is significant in the New Testament as we come to different stuff as you read. So later on, Solomon was following God at the beginning, stopped following God. And, then he writes all these books, very wise, but, ends tragically in the end, really. And then the kingdom splits overall. There are loads of different kings. The majority of the kings were all awful. Some of them were good. Some
terrible.
of them really small amount. Most of them really bad. And they begin to reject God again, begin rejecting him. And so God says, okay, you want to follow these idols. Again, as God did earlier, God sometimes will give you what you want. If it's not good, like he'll just be like, hey, you want it, go ahead. And they end up being taken into slavery, into captivity again. Jerusalem and the temple are destroyed. And season 3 ends in Ecclesiastes. And then Song of Songs as a little, end credit scene. Like a little, here's a little thing. Song of Songs. Season 4 begins. Just going to take a little drink. Season 4. So we just ended on a very bad note, right?
Yeah.
It's the story's big,
doom and gloom
right now. They've been taken into captivity again, and we start with the Babylonian Captivity.
Yeah.
And really, what this is kind of like an interweaving section of history here. We've got vivid dreams becoming really prominent through the prophets and different people. So Daniel, Ezekiel, Isaiah, some of the key, like big people that a lot of things.
Big Jesus, hard hitters.
They were shown a lot of things by God and recorded a lot of things by God. So if you're someone who gets a lot of visions, dreams, I want to encourage you, write it down. That's what they did. Literally, if you're reading Ezekiel, he's literally like, today is this is the day. This is my name. This is what I was doing. Also, God told me all this stuff. They wrote it all down.
Yeah.
And anyway, so then we're getting into the prophets as well. Obviously, that we've got Esther and stuff like that interwoven in there. The restoration begins with Ezra and Nehemiah, who are contemporaries, and they rebuild the wall, rebuild the temple. It's not as great as the first one, so the older generation are really sad, but they're there and they managed to do it. But throughout all this time, they continue breaking the law. They continue this cycle of rejecting God, forgetting God, punishment, and God continues to speak to his people through the prophets, and calls out their idolatry to idols, and the fact that they keep wanting the things that the other nations have, even though God is saying those aren't good things, don't go for those things. They keep wanting them, and so God keeps saying what you're doing is wrong, but continues to communicate his faithfulness. Haggai is a very good book about that, about just how faithful God is, even after being God is in a very abusive relationship with humanity. Is the way that if you were in a relationship, that's the way that it would be. I know sometimes people think that God is the abusive person, but that's, if you looked at it as logically, God has suffered. God doesn't suffer, but the way that humanity has treated God is very bad. And he from a human standpoint, God owes humanity nothing. Do you know what I mean?
100%.
He's well past the point of where if you were counseling someone, you'd say I think, you've done all you can at this point. Anyway, season 4 ends in Malachi. So Malachi is done. And we're now in this weird period after Malachi, in between Matthew. That there isn't really any clear kind of word from God to his people that is recorded. And it's at this point where Judaism now forms. So at this time, they were known as Jews, but really Judaism, in the way that it is at this point, really forms in this kind of middle ground period. You get the Pharisees, Sadducees, and the Jews are just waiting for their Messiah, because they were told a king like David is going to come and he's going to rule and he's going to institute this new kingdom and it's going to be great. So that's what the Jews are waiting for. They're waiting for a king who's going to come and reinstitute Jerusalem and the temple, going to kill all their enemies and bring peace, just as David did. And to this day, that's what the Jews are waiting for. It's quite a very literal human figure who is going to instill human Jewish government and that type of thing. That's what they're expecting. So that's just important to know in the context of, when we look at what the kingdom of God means and that type of thing, and what heaven looks like and all that type of stuff, is that because it's all part of the same long thread and long season, is that's all linked anyway. That's a whole other episode of this. So season 5, we're getting there. Major event: Jesus is born. So first 2 episodes of this season, it's about the birth of Jesus and the early life of Jesus, some of his little things that he got up to, like going off to the temple, some of his carpentry lessons, all that jazz, him studying, all that jazz. And then the next 8 episodes, we follow the ministry and life of Jesus in depth. We look at his miracles, his times with the disciples where they were just walking, chatting, and he was, dropping absolute gems for them. And we also focus on some of his times alone, praying. We focus on him at some at parties and dinners, because that was a big part of Jesus' life. Jesus was a very popular person. Even by people who didn't like him. They would invite him to dinner, or he'd be invited to parties. Obviously, he was invited to weddings. And we also look at his time speaking to the people he disliked the most, which was the Pharisees and the Sadducees. And then the last 2 episodes, we get the betrayal of Jesus. We get his trial, his torturing, and his death. That's how we end season 5.
Good cliffhanger. Good way to reel people into the next season.
Jesus is dead. That's what's happened. So, and at this point in the show, we take a little bit of a break. Do you know what I mean? So generally, all the seasons have been, at a steady pace. But this time, we're going to take a slightly longer break just to let that sit, ruminate a bit more. A 3-year break, 1 year for each day. Then season 6 begins and starts with Jesus rising again. That's right. Straight away, right at the beginning. Jesus rises again and spends 40 days teaching his disciples about the kingdom of God, helping prepare them as much as possible before he goes. And then Acts begins. Jesus ascends and gives his final instruction to the disciples, which you can read in a bunch of different areas, Acts 2, Matthew 28, etc. And then a major event happens. Pentecost happens. This is a big deal because the Holy Spirit comes and he's given, and a lot of the promises and different prophecies begin to be fulfilled at Pentecost. This is a very, very, very big deal. The church begins to rapidly grow. 3,000 men make a decision for Jesus on the first day. It's estimated that if you accounting for the average family that a grown man had at the time, that could have been, possibly 15,000 people in total, something like that. Because it's just the men, that 3,000. So then we get the church starting to be persecuted, and the term Christian is used as a slur / insult, which what it actually means is little Christ. And so it was basically people mocking them because obviously people knew of Jesus because he was such a massive polarizing figure that he was known very much in the day. It's probably like, it would kind of be like the Beatles, but even more popular. Do you know what I mean? Like, without social media and all that jazz. Anyway, that was kind of like the insult they'd use. It's like, ugh, look at those Christians. Look at these people that think they're a little version of Jesus, is basically what they were saying. The term becomes then used as the actual term of people who follow Jesus. Before then, they were known as followers of the way, capital W.
Name.
So if you see followers of, I actually like that way more than Christians. I love that. Followers of the way, Charlie. So if you see followers of the way, that is talking about what we now call Christians. Anyway, Saul, who is one of the prime persecutors of the church, experienced Jesus and becomes Paul. This is a massive moment. Paul is one of the most significant apostles who lived at that time and was the greatest contributor to the New Testament. And at this time, this is all through Acts now, the gospel begins to spread first from the Jews, then to the Samaritans, which was the enemies of the Jews, and then to the Gentiles. So Gentile is anyone who is not a Jew. And this is important because it shows that the gospel is quite literally for everyone. And it's also the short template used of how to reach people with the gospel is start where you are and, reach everyone out like from where you are. Whether it's the people you hate the most, i.e. the Samaritans, or whether it's the people who are just from a different culture, don't understand, whatever, it doesn't matter. The gospel, kingdom of God is for everyone.
That's right.
And believers begin traveling to all corners of the globe. Churches begin to be founded in multiple cities and also in multiple countries. We don't really see a lot of other countries, but a lot of believers who we see in Acts ended up going to other countries where the church was formed. So Ethiopia is an example there. And what I think was, I can't remember, was it Thomas? I think Thomas went to India or somewhere in that direction. Anyway, they all went in different areas. And we end season 6 with the death of Paul. He did a lot, but
he was a great guy. Did loads. Big character. Big character killer.
And then it's like season big character to kill. That's true. Season 7, then the first half, well, maybe the majority of the season, we have anthologies of the epistles, and so this is lots of little one-off episodes of lessons to learn, truths about the kingdom of God, instructions, guidance, instructions about how to worship, how not to worship, about how to institute, governance in churches, just encouraging people. And then we end season 7 with Revelation, which is a massive story about Jesus's ultimate triumph over death and Satan, and the vision of the new heaven and the new earth. And what that means is that heaven and earth are going to be together. There won't be a distinctive separation between them. Be like this. And the redemption story, the redemption arc that we start with all the way at the beginning of the show, where man and God were separated, is completed. Creation is very, very happy because everything is as it should be. Satan and all his fools and minions in their punishment. And that's where we end it, guys. We end it with Jesus victorious. And that's it. That's the end of the show. And then comes eternity. So, do you know what I mean? I'm not going into
endless seasons.
We're not going into that. But
endless
then
seasons.
It's eternity.
Wow.
Whew, that's
take a breath,
our
mate.
Bible overview. I'm going to take a sip.
That was like you did that in like 35 minutes. I'm impressed. It was good.
Isn't it?
So, guys, in the comments, give a big shout out to Warner. He prepared this. He obviously rehearsed it, did whatever he did, brought it to us. Very, very good.
I think this is probably the most fun I've had preparing a podcast.
Wow.
Just the idea of like trying to figure out how to end each season, start each season, how to group things together. And
the thing is, if there is any sort of specific points that you want us to home in on, any specific characters, was one of the requests we had, Bible characters, but if there's anyone specifically you think we should home in on, or any sort of book of the Bible that we should home in on, like you were talking about sort of Ruth and things like that. If you want us to home in on that, we can do, because we just want to serve you guys best, And that was a good overview to sort of get the general thread, get an understanding of what's been going on. Right. And as you were saying, the redemption story, as you said in the notes here, the redemption arc from the beginning of the first season is completed.
Yes. And for all of you fans of shows that have ended badly, this is not one of them. This show has all of, all the conclusion that you want, all the story arcs completed, everything's just chef's kiss. You know what I mean? It's just
chef's kiss,
right. It's just right.
Yeah. Great. So thanks a lot, Warner, mate. In the comments, everyone just say a big thanks to Warner for doing all that. You did a great job, and we are going to be back at the same time, the same place next week. I have no idea what we're doing it on.
Also, before we finish, we are apparently coming to our 2-year anniversary in 2 weeks' time. We don't know what to do. So if you are watching live, please, and you have any ideas, put them in the comments. If you're watching this in the future, in our future, your present, please comment, and we'll still see it on, whether Facebook, YouTube, or, in your review, whatever. Let us know if you've got any ideas of stuff that we can do to prepare for that. Because I feel like we should do something.
Yeah, 100%.
You know what I mean? Something.
2 years of what's the word? That's big stuff.
Yeah, that's a lot. That's long. So
that's a lot of episodes, a lot of time. But let us know. Thanks, guys, for joining us. Thanks for listening. Thanks for liking, commenting, reviewing, all that good stuff. And we'll see you next week, same time, same place.
Bye. Bye.